Hey guys, I'm Pat, and today I'm going to start off my scripting series tutorial, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. So there's a good chance this might be a pretty long video, so I'm just gonna try and get through it kind of fast, but also at a rate that is understandable. But in my series, I kind of want to take a different approach compared to other YouTubers, because I feel like the way they approach teaching scripting is it's just not in a good way. They miss out on a lot of things, and they don't teach it in like a pyramid way that things build off of each other very well. So that's what I'm going to try and aim to do with my series. But in this video, we're just going to go over Studio and how, Studio works and everything. So obviously when you open Studio, you'll probably be on a different screen maybe. You just click New on the left here, and then you come here and you can see there's a bunch of different like preset template things, and honestly nobody really uses any of these. These are all pretty pointless. So usually you're just going to use the base plate. There's also a classic base plate, but the base plate comes with some default lighting, which looks okay. I mean, it can be improved, it can be changed, whatever, but it's kind of fancy, so whatever. So we're just going to click that, and it'll open up a new game here in our Studio. It'll open up a new game, whatever. And the first thing I want to go over is, well, actually, I think Explorer might be on like the left for you over here or something. Whoa. Freaking Studio is so stupid. Alright, no, we're just putting it back over here. What did I do, bro? Alright, don't worry about it. So Explorer might be in like a different spot for you or something, but it doesn't matter as long as you see, the Explorer here. You can go up to View and you can change up here like the different things you can see. So obviously for right now, all you really need to see is the Explorer. So if you want, you can like hide anything else that is visible, like maybe properties or something. But so here's the Explorer. What the hell did I just do? Oh, what did they do to Studio? There we go. Okay, whatever. So it'll look like this when you start out, and now there's a bunch of different things in here. You can see all their names and everything. One thing to keep in mind is, if you already know most of the stuff in this video, you can just skip through the video. I think I should have like chapters or whatever you want to call it, like at the bottom, so you can skip through to parts that for things that you may not know. But this is just going over like the basics of Studio, and there's some important parts really that will help you with scripting later on if you want to watch the whole video. So these all these things in here, these are all services: workspace, players, lighting, replicated first, and storage. All this stuff, they're all called services. And then underneath them, you can see they each have like their own different things underneath them. Lighting comes with like some basic things. If you use the base plate that has like all the default lighting, you can see there's some lighting here. And then here's the workspace. The workspace is everything that's like visible to you in this center area with your camera. So everything inside the workspace you can see here, except for like camera, but that's not important. So you can see the spawn location, right? That's this thing. So you can see it's over here. So everything in the workspace is under workspace over here, everything that you see. And the base plate is this giant like gray thing down here. You can just press backspace after you click on something, and it'll delete it, and then you can hit Control Z to undo, like basic things. There's also, you can click File up here to undo and things like that. So that's really it for workspace for now. I'm just going to go over some of the services here. Lighting, kind of self-explanatory. It just controls the lighting, how the sky looks and everything, time of day, whatever. And then replicated first, this is where like when your game is loading, the first things that are loaded will be under replicated first. So in the Studio, what we call all these things is instances. So you can see there's separate things here. There's camera, base plate, spawn location. These are all called instances. They're just basically objects inside the Explorer. So those are all called instances. So replicated first has all the instances that will first load. Obviously we don't have anything stored in there. You know, if you want to make like a custom loading screen or something like that, you would store it and replicate it first because you want it to load before everything else, obviously. And then replicated storage, it's just like an area where you can store things, and it can be accessed from the server and the client. If you don't know what the server and client is, like, don't worry about it. It's in a future video, whatever, so don't worry about that too much. Server script service, that's just where you store all your, most of your server scripts will be stored in here. And then server storage is just where you store, you know, things for your server scripts to be accessed, to access whatever. And then next is the starter GUI. So in here is where all your GUI will be, like all the buttons that you can press on your screen, and like health and, you know, whatever, right? So whenever you add GUI into here, it will be when the game starts and a player joins the game, the GUI from here will be automatically cloned in a player under their player GUI. We'll kind of maybe go over that in a little bit later in the video. And then starter pack is kind of similar, where it clones, or also another word for that would be replicate, Jesus Christ. Alright, so it replicates the instances under it into the player's backpack when they join. So like tools like swords or guns or whatever you would store in here, and then when they join the game it automatically goes into the player's inventory. Starter player is just like where you can store scripts for the player or for the character. You know, if you don't know what a character or player is, it's not too important in this video, whatever. Teams, lastly, obviously, you know, if you played like some older games or whatever, you might notice there's like teams on a leaderboard over on the right here, and that's where you would put teams, is just in here. And then the next thing is, you know, I'll explain how to add an instance. So you can either press this little white button whenever you hover over things, or you can right click it. So, and I think you can, can you? Yeah, you can just right click in the workspace too and insert it. But basically when you right click something and insert it, it will go under that thing that you inserted it. So when something is under something else, it's called a child. And when something is above something else, it's called a parent. So you can see the base plate is the child of workspace, and the workspace is the base plate's parent. I mean, it's kind of weird sounding, you know, if like you're not used to scripting, you wouldn't be like, why would you call it the child and the parent? But it's just the words they picked that we use, so it's just kind of what you gotta go with, I guess. So you can right click it and you can click insert object, and then you can see all the different instances that you're able to add into the game. There's like so many, it's overwhelming, but you can see you can just add a basic part, and a basic, like a part, is really just what you use for building. Most things that are built in games are used with parts. There's like other things called like meshes and unions and other things, but for the most part, parts are pretty much used in most games for building, and you don't really need to worry about the other things for now. You know, we're just going over scripting, so it's not too important. Alright, so when you click on the part, you can see there's the properties tab over here. I'm not exactly sure where it'll be on your screen. If you don't see it, you can click view at the top, and then you just press properties over on the left, and it should show up for you. And whenever you press on something in like the workspace, the properties tab will show up, and it's kind of self-explanatory what the properties are. They're just different properties of the part, like its transparency, color, material, how big it is, where it is in the workspace, its position, whatever, right? So it's just the properties, different properties of the part. And something to take note of is you can actually change all these properties with a script. So that's just mostly like the reason that I'm going over this, so that you know, like, you can look at the properties and see what you can change with the script, and how you can change stuff like set a part's position or make it bigger or smaller or stuff like that, right? So if you just go into the properties, you can you know, you can change its color and stuff, right? And you can give it different materials, like make it metal so it's reflective, whatever. And another thing you can do with parts is you can group them, so there's a way to like kind of combine them so they move as one, I guess. So if you select both the groups, you can just click and drag, or you can hold shift and then click different parts in the Explorer here, and then we just right click on it and we can hit group. And you can also go to the model at the top and then hit group here as well. You know, it's kind of up to personal preference how you want to handle that, but I think it's faster to just right click, whatever. So now that they're grouped, they're now actually called a model, and you can move them around as if they're both one part, kind of. And the only way to individually select the parts is you open up the parts under workspace, and then you individually select them. And then you can still change them individually, like move them around, whatever. But you know, if you just click them, then they just move around as one. And I guess I didn't go over to tools, but if you go to home, there's move, scale, rotate, and if you just hold control and then press 2, 3, 4, whatever, they'll let you those are the hotkeys for like the move and rotate and all that stuff. So another way to like group parts so that they're under one thing is you can use a folder. So if you want to make it so your parts aren't grouped, but they're still like under a folder so they're together, kind of organized. There's reasons for you to do that in the future, but you know, you can put them in a folder, and now you can select the folder and you can move them around as one, but you can click them as if they're their own parts now individually, and just kind of move them around on their own like that as well. So those are two different ways to kind of combine parts and organize them or whatever. And it's kind of useful for scripting because you need to know one thing to take part in is when you make a model, the parts don't actually become like one singular part. There's still multiple different parts, so the model itself doesn't exactly have a position or an orientation or whatever. But and the same thing when you put it in a folder as well. They're all still individual parts. Alright, and then another important thing that you need to know is there's the test tab up top, and there's multiple different ways to test your game or run it in Studio. You can just click play and it'll run like a normal game, like your character will load in and you can play it like a normal game. And then there's also run, which will play the game but your character won't load in, so any scripts will run but the player won't actually load into the game. So it's kind of useful if you have like a script that controls like the day and night cycle or something with the environment, things like that. It's kind of useful for that. And then you can also test on like a local server. So if you want to test something that requires you to have multiple players, you can test and it'll give you multiple players, and you can control each player individually, so you can test with, you know, multiple players without having to ask a friend to help you or something, right? So if we just click play, you'll see we'll go into the game just like a normal Roblox game. We load in, we're in here, and you can see over here the Explorer is still here, and the Explorer is actually updated with our current game information. So you can see under the players, we actually have a player instance here, and this is actually our player, and you can see we have our own backpack, our own starter gear, and our own player GUI. So when we actually join the game, the GUI from starter GUI and the starter pack, or not GUI from the starter pack, you know, the tools from the starter pack and the GUI from starter GUI, will get cloned into the player respectively. So we will have the GUI replicated into our player GUI, and we'll have the tools replicated into our backpack. And the same thing for starter player. Starter player scripts will be put into player scripts here. And then you can also obviously see when we select the instance here that our player isn't being selected, and that's because, you know, everything inside workspace is under workspace. So you can see we actually have another person here, which is actually the same name as our player instance. This is actually called our character, and underneath it, it has all of our different parts, our accessories, everything. One of the most important things in here is the humanoid. This actually stores most of our information, like our health, our walk speed, or jump height. Most of the important things that you need to know if you want to be able to change a player's health, or how fast you're moving, whatever. You need to know where the humanoid is and how to get to it. So it's under workspace. Usually you don't want to access it straight from workspace, but you know where it is now. So the player instance and the character are two separate things. Character's under workspace, and your main player instance is under the player service. Just something to know. So like once you test the game, you can look in the Explorer and you can see everything's updated live. So you can that's a very good way to debug and test your scripts and things like that. You can look in Explorer and see what's happening while the game's being played. Very useful. And then so the next part would be I'm going to show you how to save your game and that kind of thing. So if we click home, and then we can go to game settings here, and it'll see we need to save it to access our game settings. We haven't saved the game yet, so we can save it, call it whatever, description. Allows you to change the device, genre, who created it. So if you want to make it a group game, you can change it here. Team create, I highly recommend you turn that off unless you're actually working with multiple people. Then team create's absolutely horrendous to work with. So once you're done with that, you just click save and then close. Now we can go back into game settings. I don't know why it makes you reopen them. It's kind of annoying, but whatever. So you can change your game info in here, like the game icon, the thumbnail for the game, the genre, and you can also change who plays the game. You can change things like badges, paid access, private servers, security. This is all like scripting stuff. You'll probably learn about this in the future. I'll go over most of this, I guess. And places, when a game has like a lobby, like you join a game and it has a lobby, and then you teleport to another world which actually has like the real game and stuff. It usually has multiple places which you can manage here. There's another place to manage them, but this is one of the places you can manage them. Localization, I'm pretty sure this is a new thing they just added, so I don't exactly know what it does, but different languages, whatever, I don't know. And then avatar, you can change the avatar if you want to be R6. You can change the collisions. You can change the character's physical properties if it's R15. You can change the body parts of the character. You can change what clothing they're default set to, if you want to have like default clothing, whatever. You can also change some of the world physics, like the gravity and the normal jump height, walk speed, max slope that they're able to walk up, whatever. And here you can shut down all the servers, toggle spatial voice, and enable collaborative editing if you want to work with multiple people. And then one more thing I wanted to go over before, I guess I should have probably went over this in the start, but it's whatever. So I know most of you guys are probably in like light mode and are being like blinded by the light, but if you go up to file at the top here and then go to studio settings, you can change everything in here, like your theme if you want to use dark or light theme. It's in here somewhere. I don't know, I haven't opened this in like a fucking long ass time. But you can change your script editor, you can change a lot of different things in here. Dark mode is in here somewhere. Here it is, theme, dark, light, default, dark. If you don't want to be blinded, I recommend you use dark. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is, this is a scripting series, so I'll show you how to make your first script. So the first thing you do is you go to server script service, which is where your server scripts are stored. And then you just add a script instance. This is a normal script, some people call it, but really this is just a server script, is what most people would call it, is a server script. Then you can also see if I can stop having an aneurysm. If you type in script, there's 3 different kinds of script. This one would be the server script. Here's the local script, module script, whatever. You don't really need to worry about that right now. We're just using a normal script. So you see it automatically gives us some code in here. And this is completely pointless, you know, none of this means anything. So what we're gonna do is Jesus Christ. Alright. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna completely delete that. Act like that wasn't even there. You know, it doesn't matter at all. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put in P, and when you start typing, you'll see it starts giving you suggestions for things to type. If you use the up and down arrow keys, you can change like what you're selected on. And we want to write print. So if you just hit tab, it should autofill, and you can see it'll automatically add parentheses. I call these parentheses. I'm always going to call them parentheses. If you call these brackets, I'm sorry. I apologize that you had a terrible English teacher, but these are parentheses. These should be called parentheses. Don't call them brackets, or else you smell bad or something. I don't know. So after you do that, you can put in double quotes. You can also use single quotes, but you know, double quotes are much cooler, so I recommend using double quotes because they make you look cooler for sure. So you see, once you put in one, it'll automatically add a closing one here, which is part of Studio's editor. So now we can just type in hello, you know, message, whatever. If I can fucking type whatever message you want to put in here. We're just gonna put in hello world, but you can literally put whatever message you want to put in there. And when we run this, if you click view and then hit output, it'll show this little thing at the bottom. When we run this, it will print out to the output, so we can see it down there. So now we're gonna go back to test, and now we're gonna use the run button, so that way we don't have to wait for our player to load in the game or whatever. And you see, as soon as we press it, it immediately prints hello world, because the script will execute, like it'll run line by line. So as soon as the game starts, it will run the first line and it'll keep going on till it reaches the end of the script. So it printed hello world. That's kind of what we wanted. And another thing, if you want to notice, is down here we can actually click on it and it'll take us to what printed that out. So we can click on, you know, the script, and it'll take us to that script. And if we had multiple lines and we clicked on this, it would take us to the line of code that caused this to print out. Kind of useful information, you know, whatever. So that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next episode, I guess, if I make one, if I care enough. What the hell am I doing? You know, I'll see you guys later. That's it for this episode. Bye.